We all agree Hamas has to go. Because if Hamas is left in power at the end of this conflict, I can tell you, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4...
And can I just tell you this? Why do you think Hamas is in power in the first place? Hamas is in power in the first place because Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists didn't want to have PLO be in charge because the PLO are less militaristic and less religious than the Hamas. And so Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists propped up Hamas, made sure they got suitcases full of money and funding, and propped them up over the PLO so they could always go, we have no one to negotiate with. These people are crazy. These people are terrorists. These people are terror, bad, evil. Because the PLO isn't that. And so and so Bill Maher doesn't bring on anybody on his show ever to make that case. So something happened on Bill Maher, and then Bill Maher tweeted it out. It's the Arab League calls for Hamas to disarm. And so Bill Maher tweets out, this all can end if Hamas just surrenders.
Yeah.
And Kurt Metzger says, spoken like a true Nelk boy. So you want to hear what this guy's... Here we go. So Bill, again, this is more proof that Israel has lost the war. The war being the war of ideas, the propaganda war, the narrative war. And, but hey, Bill Maher agrees with you, and some people think he's on the left. By the way, Bill Maher is a lefty in the same way Elvis Presley was a black belt. Okay.
Nixon, the office of lefty.
Yeah.
But we have to really appreciate the unprecedented nature of this conflict that Israel is in right now. This is the first time that a country was invaded by a sadistic, depraved enemy that came in, murdered 1,200 people, took 250 hostages. We haven't heard about them, by the way. There's some of them left right now.
You know, there's thousands of Palestinian hostages, a lot of them children, by the way. And then the ones they don't take hostage, they shoot them in the head. They shoot children. Genius. They shoot children in the head. And this guy, again, they're just so.
Wait, Jimmy. Okay, the reason we're not hearing about the Israeli hostages is because, one, the IDF would have liked to kill them so they couldn't be hostages.
That's right.
And two, they're starving them to death along with the Palestinians. So that's why they're not talking about the Israeli hostages.
That's right.
And then these evil men, they built a 500-mile tunnel structure underground with
evil men. You know, the ones who are being occupied and are being slaughtered left and right. The ones that are having a siege warfare done on them, meaning that the Israelis count the calories they get to eat. This is before October 7th. That's
how they afford to dig all them tunnels without Bibi Netanyahu paying for the evil men to do evil.
So basically the people. That's like saying that the Jews fighting the Third Reich were the real evil ones.
It's insane.
That's what this is. That's what this is like.
Materials that was given to them by the international community to actually build homes and schools and something productive. They use that as a bomb shelter for themselves. And they don't let any civilians come down when Israeli bombs rain down on them. So how can Israel, win this war? I think we all agree Hamas has to go. Because if Hamas is left in power at the end of this conflict, I can tell you, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4...
And can I just tell you this? Why do you think Hamas is in power in the first place? Hamas is in power in the first place because Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists didn't want to have PLO be in charge because the PLO are less militaristic and less religious than the Hamas. And so Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists propped up Hamas, made sure they got suitcases full of money and funding, and propped them up over the PLO so they could always go, we have no one to negotiate with. These people are crazy. These people are terrorists. These people are terror, bad, evil. Because the PLO isn't that. And so and so Bill Maher doesn't bring on anybody on his show ever to make that case. Because they
spent the 70s deporting secular Palestinians, so there would only be hardcore Islamist because they want that. How do people not figure this out yet when it's openly stated?
And that's why they allowed the October 7th attacks to happen, so they could use all this as a pretext to go in and flatten Gaza. And they're still doing it on the Bill Maher show, and it still works on the Bill Maher show Because all you have to do is say terrorists, Hamas terrorists, terrorism, Hamas are terrorists, evil, Hamas terrorists, because they've lost the narrative. They've lost the narrative. Everybody sees who the evil ones are. The evil ones are Mossad, Israel, the IDF, and the Zionists.
Wait, Jimmy.
But not on Bill Maher.
Yeah.
But not on Bill Maher.
If I hold up a sign that says I support Hamas, that's a terrible crime, correct? But if I'm the president of Israel and pay for them to exist and dig tunnels and take hostages of the people I'm president of, who I tested the COVID vaccine on for Pfizer also, that's cool. That's like that's a strong leader. That's what you call that.
5 years, 10 years, they will start another pointless war, and the Palestinian people will be the chief victims of it.
And
there's
no doubt.
They will start another pointless war, unlike the pointed wars that Israel has started. The Iraq War twice, the Libyan War, the Syrian War, Somalia, Yemen. Oh, Syria, which now is run by an Al-Qaeda guy that's in bed with Israel. You know, that kind of stuff. Those kind of wars. Those are the good wars. That they're not pointless. Those are pointed. Unlike Hamas, who just starts pointless wars. You mean wars to fight off their oppressor and their occupier, which, by the way, is legal in international law and is okay with the UN Charter.
Interject one thing before we run out of time, because this is important. We are a catch-up on the news show, and what you just said, we all agree that Hamas has to go. Until yesterday, we did not all agree. As of yesterday, the Arab League... The Arab League, let's not bury the lead here. The Arab League, 22 Arab countries got together and said, Hamas, you're over. That's huge. Yeah. That the Arabs themselves are saying, this is a bad organization and these people have to go. You need to disarm.
What about all the Jewish organizations that say Benjamin Netanyahu and the Zionists have to go? Isn't that huge? What about all the Hasidic Jews who say the idea of Israel is blasphemous? What about those people? What about every human rights organization in the world, bar none, that has said Israel is an apartheid state and it's based on Jewish supremacy? It's a supremacy state. You know how they like to call white supremacists in the United States? Well, it's Jewish supremacists in Israel. And every human rights organization, including the UN in the world, has called them an apartheid state.
Jimmy, Bill Maher made a movie called Religulous about how crazy people were going to cause World War III because of end times prophecy. He's not mentioning that Harry Potter from Congress is over there trying to sacrifice a red heifer or some nonsense. Right. And because the people that control Netanyahu, a guy that I know for a fact he talks to on the phone all the time, probably has dinner with him like a Jordan Peterson. Netanyahu is beholden to Jewish terrorists, as recognized by Israel and also America.
It's too hot in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that open? Yeah. Okay, let's see if there's more to this stupid stuff.
And give up. And of course, this all could have ended if they just had surrendered, which obviously they're beaten, but they don't want to do that.
Yeah, this all could have been. You mean the shooting of babies in the head? You mean that? Dropping 2,000-pound bombs on refugee camps, burning people alive in hospitals, flattening every high school, every college, every hospital in Gaza? You mean like that? You mean shooting people at aid centers when they show up to get food? You mean that could have all stopped? You mean that kind of crazy Nazi stuff?
You killed everyone except Hamas.
Yes.
And you're going to sit there like the asshole you are. Imagine how much better we would have done in all our many adventures in the Middle East if we said, hey, if Al-Qaeda doesn't surrender, we're going to kill everyone's kids until they do.
We're going to kill.
And then this piece of shit went on TV to talk about it could be over tomorrow, Afghanistan, if the Taliban surrenders. We'll stop starving the kids to death.
Remember when Donald Trump, when he was running for president the first time, said he was going to kill the terrorist families, and everyone was like, you can't do that. Well, that's exactly what Israel's doing, and Donald Trump's funding it.
Right. Well, and everybody Brzezinski pleaded for her family.
And everybody in government except a handful of people are for it.
Yeah.
So
Dick Cheney's going away?
So just to remind everybody, after you watch that garbage video from Bill Maher, 100% BS talking points used as a legit argument. There's a reason Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel funded and propped up Hamas and facilitated the October 7th attacks. It's called the Greater Israel Project, and it always involved flattening Gaza and stealing their land. F Israel and Bill Maher for this. And if you don't think I'm going to show you Jewish newspapers from Israel that back up everything I just said. So here is Netanyahu funding for Hamas via Qatar enabled October 7th invasion, Shin Bet reveals. So there you go. So if Hamas is going to be destroyed, you have to then cut the head off the dragon, the one who supplies the money and gives the go-ahead. That would be Benjamin Netanyahu. And anybody doesn't see this point is being paid to not see this.
Yeah.
There's another Israeli Jewish newspaper. For years, Netanyahu propped up Hamas. Now it's blown up in our faces. So they don't ever tell you that on Bill Maher. He'll never tell you that. Here's another one. This is before October 7th. Smotrich Strzok say Israel will have no choice but to eventually retake Gaza. That's in May 2023. In separate interviews, far-right ministers slammed the 2005 disengagement, stress option to reconquer territory not currently on table, but argue it will be in the long term. So they've already said that they were going to take over this. So they just used October 7th as a pretext. That's all that was. And here's another one. You are a Jewish supremacist liar, Helene says. Israeli officials have repeatedly said they will not stop until Gaza is fully occupied and cleansed. Hamas has every right to defend their lands against further encroachment by a hostile foreign invaders. So if you're being occupied, right now, Israel is illegally occupying Gaza and the West Bank. Under UN Charter and international law, you have a right to violently fight back against your occupier.
As if you need that, by the way, if somebody invades your shit.
Yeah.
As if you need the UN to tell you it's okay to do that. It's just absurd. And by the way, think about 9/11 now that you know the kind of shit Israel does to its own people. I wonder who would be involved in 9/11. Some people they don't care about that they use as, Shabbos Goy.
And so here's from the Times of Israel. We're going to carry out the Trump plan. This represents the first time the U.S. president's plan for moving Gaza civilians out of the Strip has been presented as an Israeli demand for ending the war. So their demand to end the war is that all the Palestinians get out of their country and leave their land. That's why. So this whole idea of they need to surrender Hamas and it'll be all, it's not true. They've always wanted to ethnically cleanse Gaza, and that's why they're doing it. And they're using October 7th as a pretext. And I can't believe how stupid people can be to not see this, they don't want to see it on purpose. Netanyahu, implementation of Trump's Gaza relocation plan is a condition for ending the war. So that's not going to end the war if Hamas just surrenders. It's not going to end the war if they give up the hostages. That's not ending the war because that was never the point of the war. The point of the war was never to smash Hamas. The point of the war was to use the idea, the pretext of smashing Hamas, to flatten Gaza completely, knock out every cultural site, every hospital, every university, everything, any apartment, every house, flattened to ethnically cleanse Gaza so Israel can take it over. Here's Smotrich. Israel should embrace Gaza occupation. IDF won't leave, even for hostages.
Yeah, well, we all know the Hannibal Directive and what they do.
We want to bring hostages home, but Israel's not willing to end the war.
We've reported this for 3 years, Jimmy.
So here's why Blakely says Boomer Maher and his loser effing Zionist trash bag guests refuse to engage with anyone who isn't a dumb F Zionist bootlicker like them, and yet he loves to jerk himself off about how open he is to the other side. That's Bill Maher's big thing. I listen to both sides, but he'll never bring on anybody to go against their narrative on Israel. And here's why. Because he did once. He brought on Glenn Greenwald, and Glenn Greenwald cleaned his clock. Watch this.
Our fault what came out. We didn't go into Egypt.
Well, we
wound up with the Muslim Brotherhood.
We didn't go into Egypt. We were supporting and propping up Mubarak for 30 years, even as we were cheering for all the Tahrir Square demonstrators as though we were on their side. It was our government that kept Mubarak in power, just like we've done across the entire Muslim world. And it's amazing for you to say that, well, look at all these Muslims. The minute you give them a little bit of freedom, they go wild and they start being all violent. How can you be a citizen of the United States, the country that has generated more violence and militarism in the world over the last 5 or 6 decades, and say, look at those people over there, they are incredibly violent? We play a significant role in what has been happening in the Middle East because we've been interfering and dominating that region in order to have access to the oil.
I wasn't talking about violence. I was talking about theocracy. That doesn't happen here.
No, well, okay, that doesn't happen here, but at the same time, Iran isn't invading lots of other countries and occupying them for a decade, nor are fundamentalist Muslim countries the way the United States is. So these things are interlinked because we are continuously interfering in that part of the world. And so to say...
Really, it's all our fault?
It's not all our fault, but when you send your military for 6 straight decades into other countries to bomb them, kill their children and women and innocent men, prop up dictators, you take responsibility for your actions and say, to the extent that that region...
That religion goes back 1,000 years before our revolution. So I don't think we can take all the blame.
I don't think we should. I think we should take a lot of it. And there's lots of bodies and corpses that have been piled up in the name of Christianity and Judaism as well.
Not recently.
Have you heard of the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza for the last 50 years, motivated in part by extremist views of Judaism, or the wars in Europe, or the fact that there were generals in the United States saying we have to go and invade and destroy Iraq, a country of 26 million people, because our God is bigger? Lots of religions, not just Islam, produce violence.
Well, if I could just make one quick point about Egypt.
That silly liberal view that all religions are alike because it makes you feel good.
No, it makes you feel good to say our side is better than people over there are primitive and violent.
No, it makes you feel good to put a crown on your head and say, I'm a good person. How do I prove that?
You get to ignore the responsibility that your own government has for the violence and instability in the world by saying, look, it's that primitive religion over there that's to blame.
All right, it's time for...
All right, and Glenn Greenwald was never invited back, and he'll never invite anybody on who can push back against his garbage because he doesn't have a leg to stand on, and he's easily debunked. He's one of the worst political commentators I've ever seen in my life. And of course, he's given a show on HBO, an establishment platform, for decades and decades because he props up the establishment. Come see us on tour in Rutherford, New Jersey, New York, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, Appleton, Wisconsin, Rosemont, Chicago, Louisville, Kentucky, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. I want you to watch this video about Trump's swollen ankles. It could have some very important health implications for you as well. Tap the video link right here to watch now.